I had made a diagram like this because we know that the golden coins were minted from the age of Indo-Greeks. So this was like the numismatic art form. Then here I made chronology. Then this was the age of Guptas, and later during Harshvardhan time, the art form declined. So this was the kind of diagram I made in order to emphasize that during the age of Guptas, the numismatic art form was at the peak. And I explained why during the Harshvardhan period, the numismatic art form suffered a decline, because after the age of Guptas, we had feudalism in India. Salaries were paid in the form of land grants and not in the form of coins. So this is what I mentioned here, that feudalism came into prominence in India. So this was the kind of diagram I made here. And then for internal security also you can make a diagram, like this is the India's map. Then here we have Kashmir militancy. So this is the kind of diagram you can make in any question on internal security. Here we have Kashmir militancy. Then this is the region we have Red Corridor. Then here we have Northeast insurgency. So these kind of short maps we can make in the case of internal security. Then in this question on salinity, I was not aware of the geographical jargons as Ravi was mentioning. So what I did was I mentioned a lot of examples, like why Mediterranean Sea has high salinity because of high rates of evaporation. Then why Red Sea has low salinity or high salinity, whatever it is the case. You can mention a lot of examples. If you are not aware about the jargons, you can cover it with examples. And then as far as filling the number of pages is concerned, as Ravi was mentioning, what I used to do was I didn't have that much of content for every answer. So what I used to do was, after the question ended, I used to leave 2 lines. Then just before page number, I used to leave 2 lines. I didn't write anything on this, so that I could reach to the end of the space limit. So this way you can manage your way. That's the thing. Then there is a question last year. There was a question on right to privacy. The question was, examine the scope of fundamental rights in the light of recent right to privacy judgment. So what I feel is more part of the answer should be focusing on the scope of fundamental rights than on the right to privacy, because this is the kind of mistake we do, because we read in current affairs a lot about right to privacy, so we end up writing more about right to privacy than on the scope of fundamental rights. So this is also very important to read the question very carefully. Then as Ankit was also mentioning, there is a lot of buzz around the type of keywords that UPSC provides, like critically analyze or comment. But frankly speaking, we don't have that much of time to think in that manner. So the idea is to write holistic answer irrespective of the keyword. This is what I did. Yeah.
So in the right to privacy question, like Ravi has mentioned, that first you have to give the Supreme Court judgment, which is what? I think it was Puttaswamy, he wrote about it. So you can start with introduction in that why it is in the news, because recently Supreme Court has given some judgment in this and this case, in which it highlighted that right to privacy has to be the fundamental right. And one important thing about the judgment was that it was passed unanimously by all the judges. So you can mention that thing, that it was a very landmark judgment. You can write, maybe in 10-15 years, it will be a landmark judgment. So first thing is, what do you understand by privacy? If you have read the Supreme Court judgment, you should read such judgments, because these are very important judgments and they can come in the question. So what Supreme Court used one word was right. So this is how I started my body part, that privacy means this. This is Supreme Court's view, not mine. So it is totally dependable. You can depend on it. You can write it anywhere. So first you have to know what is privacy according to Supreme Court, and then what do you mean by it. Then I gave all my understanding that I have. It is for LGBTs. Some topics are there which I think many people don't cover. In right to privacy, many of would be just writing our personal rights, specific to this, right to be left alone. Like I can study anywhere, I can watch anyone, I can speak to anyone, those kind of things. I can marry anyone. Many people would be writing. But some issues like LGBT rights, like they also have their right to privacy. And one important issue which was highlighted in this was Section 377 of the IPC. The judges told that we would be coming back to reversing that decision and we would hold fresh judgment. So in the way forward, I mentioned that Supreme Court itself has said that we would be talking on some broader aspect of this. That this is not a very, very narrow perspective, that you do not have to look at right to privacy with a very narrow perspective. It is a very broad term, and in the way forward you can write where it can be broadened. Here I wrote about the scope in LGBT and the other 377 section that it deals with. So this is what I did, and conclusion, it has to be more or on the lines of the Supreme Court, what Supreme Court wrote. It was balanced and it was very much futuristic. If you will read the judgment, you will find what kind of a conclusion I am talking about. So this is how I wrote. I think this was the very crucial point. If you do not write this, you would not be able to explain what you mean by what Supreme Court meant by it. So any other questions anyone have? It depends what is your objective behind making notes. If you are making notes for revision on weekly basis, on monthly basis, आप जल्दी भूल जाते हैं. If you have to revise like history every 15 days, आपको लगता है 2 हफ्ते बाद में भूल जाऊंगा. So in those kind of situations, you should make notes. But if related to current affairs or newspaper, like if I take my own case, मुझे याद रहता था. I used to read newspaper daily. If there is an article on some India-China relation, on India-Bhutan relation, it would be repeated next day. It would be there for 2-3 days in the news. So you would be reading around 3-4 articles. So it stays in your memory. So you don't have to make any notes. You would be reading that in your daily current affairs. You would be reading it in monthly current affairs. So if you are reading some X thing 5 times, so what is the use of making notes? It depends on person to person. If someone feels that I have to make notes, otherwise also, it is for some it is personal satisfaction. That if we don't make notes, we won't feel confident. And feeling confident is the most important thing in this exam. Keeping yourself motivated, feeling that confidence throughout the journey, it is the most important thing. And if you feel that you will feel more confident and more motivated by writing notes, then you can write notes. It is up to you. It is personal judgment. It is personal decision. It is no hard and fast rule कि नोट्स बनाने हैं नहीं बनाने. मैं बिल्कुल ही कम नोट्स बनाता था न्यूज़पेपर से, तो never I made current affair notes. I used to write some facts, like if there is some scheme, Swachh Bharat, if there was some statistics regarding it, like that 54% of the toilets have been constructed in villages, 54% villages have been covered. These kind of facts I used to write. Or if there is some study, international study, and it has said that there is 30% undernourishment in India, 32% malnutrition in India, these kind of facts you can write down. My facts are not correct, don't remember them. I am just giving examples. So these kind of facts you can write down in your current affairs. So here we have a question, what kind of role does poor handwriting and good content play? Personally, my handwriting is very bad, especially on paper board पे फिर भी readable है. तो I read it sitting there. So I feel that if your handwriting is very poor, like me, and you have to fill all the pages, what I did was सबकी अलग-अलग strategy होती है, मतलब मुझे चलो बिल्कुल अब अपनी strategy बताने में कोई वो नहीं है. तो what I used to write was मैं बहुत ही खुला लिखता था. I used to write 5 words in one line, and I used to write 18 lines, I think, in one page, and UPSC gives around 2 pages, so it would be around 180 to 200 words. I never had to worry about word limit. If my space is finished, my words will be 200. I knew it. I never had to worry about it because in every line I used to write only 5 to 6 words. So that is how I planned. You can write it on your own कि मेरे 2 pages में blank white sheets में जो UPSC देता है मेरे कितने words आते हैं, and how to organize it so that I don't have to worry about my if I am exceeding the word limit or if I am very much below the word limit. So मेरे exact 200 words के आसपास आते थे plus minus 5. So this is how you can do it, and good handwriting can be overcome by writing थोड़ा मतलब space देके हर words को थोड़ा मतलब make it more readable, and good content है उसका तो अच्छी बात है. तो do we need pencil to draw all type of flow charts and diagrams? If you will take a pencil or if another colored pen take it from you, you won't be able to finish your exam. So जिस भी pencil लिख रहे हैं, preferably black, blue, whatever. So उसी से diagram बनाइए फटाफट, pencil से shade वगैरह नहीं करने हैं. तो just जो भी pencil, if you are writing, use that pen only to for everything. You don't have to. No one, I think, no one uses different pencil or pen. Everyone, इतना टाइम होता ही नहीं है. मतलब before my exam मैं सोच के गया था यार ज्योग्राफी में डायग्राम बनाऊंगा, इकोनॉमिक्स में फ्लो चार्ट बनाऊंगा, इथिक्स में बनाऊंगा. एक फ्लो चार्ट नहीं बना, एक डायग्राम नहीं बना, पेपर पूरा हो गया. बहुत बड़ी बात है. तो मतलब if you practice before like Ravi did, maybe you can give flow charts and diagrams. He must have practiced very much. If he is able to write so many diagrams and flow charts in his answers, he would have practiced a lot. So if you can do that, you can give flow charts, and otherwise your prime motive should be completing all the questions in 3 hours. Ankit sir, now tell about IR answer format. यार कुछ नहीं होता IR answer format. It is the most simplest thing. So IR is the most interesting part of this UPSC syllabus. That's what I feel. That's why I took my political science optional. So for IR, your intro should be current affair oriented. If question is on India, Japan, if question is on India, Russia, if question is on India, China, Pakistan, first important thing it should come to your mind is why they are asking this question. Examiner, they are not fools sitting there. If they are asking something, they have to test something in you. If they're asking on, like if there was Indian diaspora in ASEAN, if there was some question. So Southeast Asia. So there was some, I think there was some news I am not able to recall. So I started with that. So you can start your introduction with why it is in the news. It is the most simplest introduction. In polity, in IR, in eco it may not work, in history also it may not work, but it will work in IR, obviously, it will work. Well, if there is an India, China, you can just say last summit, jo bhi hui hogi, just before your writing mains. You can specifically write ki this summit was, ya fir if a question is asking you to give some, let's say, criticism of if it is saying that India-China relations are not moving forward in spite of so many meetings and all. If question is asking such. So you can start your, there should be some, एक चीज होती है कि you have to know कि इस question का मेरे दिमाग में what I feel about India-China relation. कि भाई अच्छे relation है, बुरे relation है, balanced है, कैसे हैं. You should have it in your mind. So what I used to have for all the countries, you can have it in your mind कि India-China में I have a very balanced view. Like we have some cooperation in some fields, like in economy, in trade and all. And we have some differences in field like in defense, border issues, and string of pearls, in those kind of things. So you can start with the introduction by giving the recent whatever is there is, and then you can meet the demand of the question if it is asking about why the relations have not improved in spite of so many interactions and meeting. So first you should give out interaction and meeting that have taken place, and then you can write about issues which have not worked out because of this, like there is an SG issue which has not worked out, like a border issue. Then you have a string of pearls. These are the issues that has not been solved even after, in spite of so many meetings and all. So, but just before writing a conclusion part, you can say that this is not all a gloomy picture. India-China relations are not that bad. There are some things moving forward, like the people-to-people ties are increasing. We are granting them visa on arrival, so for some facilities, not for all. You can specifically mention. So if you have to prepare such examples beforehand, where we have divergences with them, with XYZ country, where we have convergences with XYZ country. It should be on your tips, so that you don't have to think just before writing the exam. So writing the answer. So you just frame them, and before conclusion, just give something positive, that it is not very gloomy. But in Pakistan, don't give such way forward. Be practical. मतलब नहीं हो सकता इंडिया पाकिस्तान का कुछ अच्छा चाहे कितना भी कुछ भी मीटिंग हो जाए, चाहे मोदी जी खुद चले जाए, मतलब इनफॉर्मल समिट कितनी भी हो, nothing will work in India-China case. So try to be practical in India-Pakistan's case, and you can have balanced conclusion and way forward in all the other cases, very positive, but try to be pragmatic in IR, conclusion at least. No, you don't have to write the way forward. I would be writing way forward. ऐसे नहीं, ऐसे heading नहीं देनी है. हाँ, बिल्कुल. It's flow अपने आप पता लग जाएगा. If you will be answer writing program इसलिए है कि you will have that flow कि how to move from introduction to body without writing that body part, and how to move from body to way forward and conclusion without writing way forward and conclusion. Okay, so it will come through practice. Ki examiner will know that you have justified whatever the question was demanding, and now you are writing the way forward. Okay. In IR and polity. No. In polity, I used to give facts. If it depends on the question. मैंने वही example लिया जिसमें current affair था. हाँ. Diaspora, you can link it with the Middle Eastern in most of the points. But in some of the points, like you can specifically mention trade here. In Middle Eastern, we only have trade with oil. But here we have trade in services. So these kind of things will change. Like in Middle East, you were writing that we have trade in oil, goods, jewelry that is imported and exported there. So, but in South Asia, we have trade with services. We don't have oil trade with them that much as compared to Middle East and Eastern countries. So some points, mostly it remains the same. Economic dimension will remain the same. Security dimension will remain the same. Like in West, national security strategy was given by US. So in that, Southeast Asia is very important part, and it has considered, US has considered it as Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific. It used this word. So if it is including India in that part, so it is assuming that India will play a security provider in that area. Okay, so you can mention those kind of things. Ki for diaspora, it will be more influential. So and trade would remain the same, but only the dimensions will change. So it was a difficult question, I would say, but you could have come to an answer through some logical reasoning, and it will take 2-3 minutes extra. we would be discussing this question separately in the classes. Introduction is the only thing which changes. It will be different for different questions. It was coincident that I took only current affairs. Try to be with the government as far as possible. But when you are criticizing it, mention 2-3 points. If we do not agree with these suggestions provided, these can be worked in these way forward ways, which you will be writing in the way forward. So this is how you maintain the flow, like you were asking.
Like to add here, you can use a lot of keywords in your answer. For example, good governance, then citizen-centric governance, rule of law, then demographic dividend, financial inclusion, demographic, then you can add like terms like gender gap. So these are the kind of terms that you can use in your answer to make it a little more like value added, so that you can give.
The question is, in essay we write diagrams, or can we segment our essay into subtopics? And can you explain how you prepared for your political science option?
As far as essay is concerned, subheadings, diagrams, like Ravi said, he did not make diagrams, somebody did not get the marks. But if you recall Ira Singhal, All India first ranker, she had made a lot of diagrams. So there is no yes or completely no to making diagrams or flowcharts in the essay, but it should be a essay paper. Like you read a good editorial, there are many times flowcharts into that. A good editorial itself is a good essay. ठीक है, but it should be in sync with it. ऐसा नहीं होना कि वो आपका geography का paper लग जाए ऐसे. ठीक है, it should not look like an anthropology paper. So if you really want to try diagrams and flowcharts in your essays, practice it beforehand. ठीक है, बनाते हैं लोग और आते हैं नंबर. अब ये है कि आपने उस टाइम कैसा बनाया, नहीं आया आपको, किसी को आ रहा है, कोई ऑल इंडिया फर्स्ट रैंकर है, 165 मार्क्स आ रहे हैं उसको सब कुछ बना करके, और किसी को सब कुछ बना के 100 नंबर भी नहीं आ रहे, तो it all depends. ठीक है, तो there is no complete yes or no. It all depends how you are incorporating these things in your essay. This is UPSC essay, always remember. This is not a literary essay that you are writing for Harvard कि वहाँ नहीं बना सकते हैं. ठीक है?
For anyone else who has political science optional here. So for Pol Science, I just read Shubhra ma'am's notes. Everyone knows that. You don't have to read any other book except for them. Just take test series and practice as much as possible from there. And read model answers. And try to frame your own point of view on different topics. Like for IR, I had different thinkers. Like for C. Raja Mohan for some way forward on India-China. For some criticism, I had some other thinker. For positives, I had some other thinker. So you can keep these thinkers handy at your hand. so that whenever you have to, question is asking anything, if it is asking criticizing, if you have to criticize, if it is asking some future scope, so that you will have at least one or two thinkers to write on. So you can prepare those thinkers beforehand कि मेरे को positives में ये लिखना है, criticism में ये लिखना है, way forward में I have to write these. And for theory, just practice previous years and test series papers. Practice them as much as possible and try to write a very structured answer. It should start with a giving good background of the whatever the topic is there. Like there was a question on postmodernism. I started my introduction by giving why postmodernism came into effect. So I first told what is modernism, and then in the second paragraph I told why it is not why there was development of or change of modernism to postmodernism. So in second paragraph I wrote that. Then so a flow should be there. In the third paragraph I told some Lyotard has said about postmodernism, and fourth paragraph I wrote something about Foucault, what Foucault had told about postmodernism. So and just after that I wrote one paragraph about critics. I think the most major critic of Foucault was, I don't recall his name, but there is some person, you will find him easily on internet. So I wrote his name and wrote why he criticized postmodernism. And then you have, in the conclusion, it should be very balanced. कि it is not ऐसी ideology भी नहीं है कि हर जगह काम करे, ऐसी भी नहीं है कि कहीं भी ना काम करे. So it can work in its own space and time. So conclusion should be very balanced and it should not be very extreme.
How to get relevant fact and figure for answer in essay? From newspapers, first source is your newspaper. Second is you can make a separate data file containing data, relevant data or statistic for each and every topic mentioned in your syllabus. For example, if there is a topic mentioned is in JS paper is unemployment. So you should search Google and try to read the latest news report which has come with respect to unemployment. You will find data related to it. Okay. Secondly, there are model answers available for test series. In those model answers, you will also be able to find relevant data and figures. So I think these three sources will suffice your need. Second question is, for data and fact, we need to rely on which source? Please suggest some source for data. You said you used to make some notes or facts and data. I think I have addressed this, that first is your newspaper, second is your make your own data file with respect to each and every topic mentioned in your syllabus, and the third is your model answers.
Apart from that, you can also rely on PIB and some other government website, because data मतलब थोड़ा क्या होता है, कभी कभार कहीं और कुछ अलग मिल जाता है किसी वेबसाइट पे किसी पे, but these are the reliable sources. You will find factually correct data here.
One thing with respect to data, it is not necessary to incorporate the latest data only. You can give data figures for 2016, 2015 also.
Any other question? Okay, so breakup.
Now I'll be telling you the kind of breakup that we'll be dealing with. For example, art and culture, Ravi would be taking. Then for modern history, Ankit. Society, I would be dealing with. Then essay, Ruchika ma'am would be dealing. Then world history, Ankit. Then geography, physical, Ravi would be dealing with. Then post-independence, I would be dealing. Then polity, Ankit. Then comparative constitution and IR. Oh, both would be taken simultaneously, fine. Then RPA bodies, NGOs, SSGs and welfare schemes I would be taking. And then governance, I think Ravi. Then for economy, Ravi would be taking. Science and Tech, Ankit. Environment, Ankit. Disaster Management, me. Internal Security, I would be taking. Budget and Economic Survey, Ravi would be taking. Then there would be a separate class on current affairs for GS2 as well as GS3. Then ethics, attitude, definitions and governance, me and Ravi, respectively. Then for thinkers and values and emotional intelligence, Ankit and Ravi. And case studies, 2 classes, we would be dealing 2 each. And in the end, remember that there is nothing like an ideal answer, because no matter how well you write, you won't be getting a 10 out of 10. So what we'll be trying to do is you get a decent score in each of the answer, each of the questions.
10 on 10 तो किसी का नहीं आता. You can expect 50-60% marks. 12.5 है तो you can expect 7 at max. Essay है तो मतलब he defied all odds in this. In GS3 he must have got 10 also out of 15. Any other query anyone has? You can write approx in that if you are not sure, but if you are if you are not writing approx and you are writing wrong figure, then your marks will be deducted in that case. Yeah, none of us here would be able to tell what gave us edge over some person, or it is matlab, all the 9 papers would be evaluated, your interview would be evaluated, and before that you have to qualify pre. That is the most difficult hurdle. So based on all of that, someday we were good on GS1, GS2, GS3, or we had some less knowledge. So it is all cumulative. ऐसा नहीं है कि someone had edge over someone. Everyone is good in their parts. Everyone has some strengths, some weaknesses. So just work on your strength and try to work on your weakness more. Yeah, you have to attempt all the questions if you have to be in the list. Because there will be thousands of people who would be writing all the questions in that time frame of 3 hours. Yes, you can write underline some key points, which you feel that after reading it, you have to make job easier for the examiner. Treat examiner as your best friend. इसके लिए सब easy करना है. Always keep that in your mind while writing any answer, so that it would be easier for him to judge you, to award you marks, to read your answers, to assimilate whatever you have written. So make it easier for him. तो diagram facts वगैरह इसीलिए डालते हैं, so that it makes the job of examiner easier. अब इसने वो diagram डाला था, बैंक वो पैसा गया ये वो. अब आप इसको 2 पैराग्राफ में समझा भी सकते हैं, पर उसको he will be able to know कि आप बताना क्या चाहते हैं through one diagram. कि एक साइकिल है, इससे आप पैसा डालोगे वो multiplier effect होगा. मतलब instead of writing it in 4-5 lines or 2 paragraphs, you just make a diagram and you just explain it to him. बात वही है, examiner should be able to understand. अब जैसे किसी के मार्क्स आ रहे हैं ऐसे में डायग्राम देख, किसी के नहीं आ रहे हैं, इट इज ऑल की वो कंटेक्स्ट में जो डाल रहा था, इट वाज नॉट रिलेटेड टू द टॉपिक, इट वाज नॉट रिलेटेड टू व्हाट ही वाज ट्राइंग टू से. मे बी ही वाज ट्राइंग टू से समथिंग एल्स, बट इन डायग्राम ही ड्रू समथिंग एल्स. सो दैट इज वेयर द डिफरेंस अराइजेस. if your mind will be there and you will be drawing diagrams, underlining things which are important, which you feel will improve the flow of your answer. There you will be awarded marks.
So in this answer writing program, what we'll be doing is each one of us will have 1.5 hours. So in 1.5 hours, we'll discuss some questions with you. We'll tell you about different kinds of introduction that can be incorporated for that particular question, how to write the body, and what relevant diagrams can be incorporated, and how should you write the conclusion. For example, as he was mentioning that whether the introduction should be the same for each and every topic or each and every question. That is not the case. So we'll be telling you that if you know facts, you can incorporate facts. If you are not aware of the facts, but you are aware of the current happenings, you can incorporate that as well. So different kinds of introduction can be used given the fact, what the question is asking, what you know, or among the different things that you know, which is the best that you should use in the introduction. Similar is the case with the body, how to address the body, whether in point format or in paragraphs, how many paragraphs, whether to use subheadings or not. Okay, so these things will proceed by first telling you how to write answers for 2 or 3 given questions. Then we'll also give you some questions to write at home. You may bring that answer in the next class or the or any time in the next IS whenever you come, and you can submit it here. We'll be reviewing it, and we'll be reviewing 2 or 3 questions in the class itself from among yourself who have bring that answer written. So we'll be reviewing that answer, and we'll be telling that whether it is good, whether there is scope for improvement, and what more can you do, or what you should avoid in writing it. Okay. And similar is the case with conclusion. What you have to write in conclusion. In history, the conclusion is different. In geography, you need to give a different conclusion. Similar is the case with polity, IR, and everything. So this is how we'll approach, and we would advise you to bring your own questions if possible. Okay, so that we'll be addressing your query in a more specific manner. Okay, Ankit will tell you.
And class would be very interactive. If we would be giving any question for you to write, we would be discussing it for 15-20 minutes, because किसी को कुछ और पता हो सकता है. Maybe we also don't know something on that particular topic. So it would be like if someone knows something better on how to start it or how we can write it in the body. If someone knows some example which is very much important for that or very much suited to that question. So इससे you will also develop, you will get more facts, more knowledge, more concepts related to that particular topic. And also we would be, like he has already mentioned, that at the end of the class we will give you 2-3 questions, or also you can write 2-3 questions on your own. मतलब instead of just writing what we are giving, आपको कोई और questions you have to write. आपको case study लिखनी है, आपको GS1 पे लिखना है. मतलब आपको you feel that you need practice in GS area, GS2 area, GS3 area, so you can choose it on your own, and you can write it question खुद से या कहीं और से, किसी टेस्ट सीरीज से, कहीं से भी, ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म से, इनसाइट से, कहीं से भी आप लेके you can write the answer on that, and you can get it reviewed. We would be reviewing it, and we would be giving you feedback one-on-one, or if it would be a class question which we have given, we would be discussing it here also.
और कुछ questions जो है हम लोग जो लिखे थे last year test series में, that also we would be sharing in the class itself. और there would be a lot of questions जो आपके दिमाग में होगा कि मतलब टाइम या मनी का वर्थ होगा कि नहीं. हम लोग अपनी तरफ से एश्योर करते हैं कि your time and money will be worth the same. ठीक है, जो दिक्कतें हमें आई थी आंसर्स लिखते वक्त, वो हम कोशिश करेंगे कि आप लोगों को जो है ना आए.
Looking at the schedule of this year mains, 1 week is there for optional. So I think your rank will be decided by GS only, GS and essay, because 1 week is sufficient for everyone to prepare their optional. Okay, so if you are focusing on optional this time, you may not get as much written as you'll get if you focus on general studies. Okay.
Any queries? Last minute. Thank you.